The winning blueprint presents.
In the lab room.
Welcome, you are in the lab room. I'm your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me today on this excellent, and I'm going to say it again, excellent Monday afternoon. I told you I was going to heat it up, and that's exactly what I did. And this was a great week of NFL action over this weekend. A lot of close ball games. There were a few blowouts as well. A lot of teams scoring a lot of points. But overall, it was an excellent week. It was an excellent week because not only did the Redskins come away with the victory, but I went 11-3 so far this week, and I got a chance to go 12-3. And those are great numbers, especially coming from the 7-9 and 8-8 back-to-back abysmal weeks that I have posted. This 11-3 was just what I needed, and let's see if I can get it to 12-3 in this Monday night game tonight. But before we can start talking about anything related to Monday Night Football, we must first take a look back at the weekend that was and go slate skating. So without any further ado, let's do exactly that.
The weekend.
That was.
We're slate skating. We're slate skating. We're slate skating. We're slate skating.
Our travels around the league through the slate of games first lands us in Atlanta, where the Carolina Panthers were taking on the Atlanta Falcons. Some family business was being conducted. A lot of that was being conducted this weekend. And I told you that the Panthers were going to come out and they were going to be competitive in this game. I did not think, however, they were going to be able to pull it out in Atlanta. And ultimately, that's what happened. But kudos to the Panthers for coming out, and a lot of turmoil, a lot of things were being said about Cam Newton this week. He was facing probably the most adversity he's faced in his young career thus far. And he came out and he performed well in this football game. I thought their first drive, he came out, he was excellent. I think he went 4 for 4, something like that on that drive. Capped it off with a nice pass to Greg Olsen, who did the rest, got into the end zone. And they had a nice balance of run and pass on that first possession. And really, I thought that set the tone for the ball game of what the Panthers wanted to come out and do. And like I said, when this Panthers team is at its best, it's because Cam Newton is being a dual threat. He is running the football and he is passing it as well. And in this game, he set career highs in attempts and yards. And for rushing, he had 9 attempts, over 80 yards rushing. And so Cam Newton was doing what he needed to do to have his team in position to win the ballgame. And that's what he's going to have to do. He's going to have to realize that in order for this Panthers team to have a shot, he's going to have to run the football when it is available. Of course, as a quarterback, you want to throw first, but if it's not there, you have the God-given ability to tuck it and run. So use it. And they did a great job of that. I think this team is also better when Jonathan Stewart plays. He's so often injured and can't play. And he's missed 2 games this season, and they've lost those 2 games this season. And so they welcomed him back to the lineup, and I thought that his addition made that running game that much more potent. They ran the football very well, up over 160 yards rushing for this Carolina Panthers offense against the Falcons, a defense that had been pretty stingy in terms of giving up yards on the ground. And so they came out really established what they wanted to do early on in this football game, and I thought they had success doing so. You also take a look at the Falcons on offense. They came out and they just made some mistakes early on. I thought that they could have had a better start to the game. Matt Ryan took them down the field. Of course, they punted their first possession. Matt Ryan took them down the field on their second possession, only to throw an interception in the end zone, essentially picked off at the goal line by the safety Nakamura for the Panthers. And so they had opportunities in this game early on to put points on the board and just failed to do so. But again, this Falcons offense is so explosive. It is a fringe explosive offense because half the time they're explosive, the other half they're just consistent. And that's what they are. Hard to stop this Atlanta Falcons offense because you have to choose your poison. Either you're going to stop the receivers and allow Tony Gonzalez to get you, or you're going to try to stop the passing game, and then that's when Michael Turner jumps up and burns you, as the burner did this week. He went over 100 yards for the first time this season, was a big asset in the passing game as well, and he really had himself a whale of a ball game. Roddy White was out of this world in this game, catching passes of over 40 yards several times in this game, really making that Carolina Panthers defense work hard and really making them pay for any mistakes they had in coverage. This Atlanta Falcons team allowed the Panthers to hang around, could not shake loose from the Panthers. And the Panthers, with about 7 minutes left in this game, took the lead and they went up on the Atlanta Falcons 28-27. And for a while there, it looked like the Falcons weren't going to be able to pull this one out. They were struggling in the second half, mainly in the fourth quarter on the offensive end, really couldn't get anything going. And the Panthers had a chance to seal the deal. They got the ball back, were in their 4-minute offense looking to run out the clock and secure the victory. Got it to about 3rd and 3. Cam Newton took it upon himself to carry the football, and he had the first down. He dove forward, but in the process of diving, the ball was jarred loose, knocked backwards behind the first down marker, and recovered by the Panthers, but however was not advanced and therefore was short of the first down. They were in Falcons territory. You do not want to turn it over on downs in their own territory, only up 2 points where a field goal can beat you. They had no option but to punt. If you really wanted to roll the dice there, and I think you could have picked it up if they would have went for it, but the risk there was just so great that, of course, the reward would have been even greater at victory, but the risk was so high there. If you don't make it, a lot of questions will be asked of you, and a lot of people will be second-guessing your decision. Whereas if you punt it and they go, and in this instance, they actually had a beautiful punt. You don't get any better than this. They downed it at the 1-yard line. So essentially the Falcons needed to go about 60 to 69 yards just to get into serious field goal range. And you can't do it any better than that. They downed it at the 1. However, on the first play from scrimmage, Matt Ryan went up top to Roddy White again, getting behind this defense, catching about a 60-yard pass. And essentially, I just said they needed about 60 yards to get into a realistic field goal range. And that's essentially what they got on one play. And just like that, a couple more catches out of bounds to get closer to secure a better field goal. They were just excellent in that 2-minute offense. Matt Ryan was unflappable down the stretch, made the throws he needed to make, and the Panthers did not do a good job of playing the sidelines. They gave up the sidelines too easily to Tony Gonzalez and Harry Douglas on consecutive plays, just allowing them to get out of bounds after making easy catches to make that field goal even that much easier for Matt Bryant, who went in calmly and pounded home the game-winning field goal as the Atlanta Falcons moved their record to 4-0 on the season with a 30-28 victory over the Carolina Panthers. A hard-fought ball game, one that the Panthers probably thinks they should have came away with. This Falcons team is on a mission. I said it before. I'll say it time and time again. They know how to get it done, especially at home. They know what's at stake. They know what they need to do. This team is going to be dangerous because I think they know that while the regular season matters, it counts. You have to win to get to the postseason. I think their eyes is squarely on getting a playoff victory. and then trying to do more once they accomplish that. They got to get the monkey off of Matt Ryan's back, and right now they look prime and poised to not only win the NFC South, but to really do some serious damage in the playoffs once they get there. This is going to be a dangerous Atlanta Falcons team. And for the Panthers, this is a hard-fought loss. Thought they had an opportunity to really secure this victory. Cam Newton fumbled the football. They had a great plan coming into this game, being balanced. I thought they were excellent at running the football and passing. It just came up short. And this team just has to stick together, continue to make plays, because if Cam Newton plays football like he did against this Falcons team, they'll win 8 times out of 10. They just played a team that was probably better than them at home, nonetheless. And so they were on the road. It was a tough win for them to get, and they gave it all they had, and they just came up short. They had some guys have some standout games. That defense was really going after Matt Ryan, sacking him about 6 or 7, maybe even 8 times in that ball game. They really put pressure on them, but they just came up short as the Atlanta Falcons go to 4-0 in the season, and the Carolina Panthers are dropped down to 1-3. The Falcons getting the 30-28 victory at home. Next, we found ourselves in St. Louis as the St. Louis Rams took on a divisional rival, the Seattle Seahawks, in some more family business. And this was a hard-fought ball game as well. Anytime you get 2 teams from the same division conducting family business, that's what you're going to get 90% of the time. You're going to get a hard-fought game. 2 teams struggling within the division. They know each other well. Tendencies are definitely something that they look out for, and they try to play off of them. And so this is what you got here. A contest that saw the Seattle Seahawks jump out to an early 7-0 lead on the strength of Marshawn Lynch's legs. They had a great opening drive to this game. They came out, spread the ball around. Wilson was under siege early on, but he was able to get away, find targets, get the ball out of his hands, and then they were able to run the ball with Marshawn Lynch, who capped that drive off with about a nice 18 to 20-yard run in for a touchdown and gave them an early 7-0 lead. But even as impressive as that first drive was for the Seattle Seahawks, it was apparent that the Rams were going to put pressure on young quarterback Russell Wilson in this football game and force him into mistakes. And they did so beautifully in this game, sacking him a number of times, putting in enormous amounts of pressure on him, forcing him into errant throws, making him uncomfortable back there. And before it was all said and done, he had thrown 3 interceptions, his worst outing as a professional in this young season, in his young career. And so they really made it their goal to get after him and not allow him to sit back there and be comfortable. And it showed. They were able to have him under duress for a large part of the day and force him into some throws that he wishes he had back. But the Rams, they also were under pressure. You know, this Seattle Seahawks defense is one of the best in the league, and they were playing ball as normal, and they came out and established that the Rams were going to have a tough time scoring as well. It was a defensive battle, it was a defensive struggle. These 2 teams were struggling to put points on the board, and so the Rams had to go into their bag of tricks. Shortly before the half, they had Danny Amendola on the field for a 3rd down play. As they did not convert for a touchdown, they had to send out the field goal unit, and they acted as if Danny Amendola was going off the field. Instead, he stayed right on the edge of the field, in the field of play. No one was covering him. They go set up in the field goal formation, go to kick the field goal. The holder stands up, throws a dart to Amendola, who was wide open for a surprise touchdown. Look, and that was the only touchdown of the day for the Rams, so you know points were hard to come by in this game. And another weapon, and this guy is an amazing weapon. He's proven to be someone that they can rely on this early in his career, and he is not only someone that they can rely on close up, but he's getting it done from far away as well. Their kicker, Greg Zuerlein, that they've drafted in the draft, this past draft, this rookie kicker is sensational. He made kicks of 48, 58 and 60 in this game, en route to a 4-for-4 day, winning this ball game for the Rams. He made all 4 of his field goals. I mean, he comes in and he's kicking 58 and 60 yarders in this game. Hard to defend a team when all they have to do is get essentially past midfield and they're in field goal range. And that's a luxury to have. It's a weapon that the Rams utilize to perfection. And this is someone that they're going to rely on heavily because this Rams team is not a juggernaut on the offensive end. And they play solid enough defense to where if they can just put field goals on the board, they're going to be in ball games. And this kicker, Greg Zuerlein, is proven to be an absolute weapon for the St. Louis Rams. His proficiency kicking the ball was one of the keys to the game and them getting a victory against the Seattle Seahawks. Russell Wilson had a chance to bring them back late in the football game, but his 3rd interception of the day, his receiver slipped. I don't know even if he didn't slip, was he going to be around that football? I don't think it was a very good throw. Picked off, and that sealed the game for the St. Louis Rams as they're able to even up their record at 2-2, dropping the Seattle Seahawks to 2-2 with the final score of a 19-13 victory for the Rams as they get it done in the division at home in Jeff Fisher's first game in the division in the NFC West. They notch a victory and a well-needed one after coming off a bad loss at Chicago and the Seattle Seahawks coming off of a big win at home. No one thought they were going to get this one. They went home and got it done. And so now both of these teams are tied at 2-2 in that NFC West division. The next game up on the slate finds us in New Jersey as the New York Jets were at home taking on the San Francisco 49ers. And I knew this game was going to be a defensive struggle. Two teams who don't play offense freely, but definitely can get it done on the defensive side of the football, or at least that is what is expected of these two football teams. For a long time, this was a close ball game. Early on, I noted that third downs were going to be the key in this game. The Jets weren't converting on third down and having to punt. And early on, the San Francisco 49ers were doing the same as well. But as the game progressed, the 49ers found creative ways to convert on third down, to keep the sticks moving and to find ways to convert and get points on the scoreboard. Early on in the game, they revealed this Colin Kaepernick package that the 49ers had been saving for a while, and they unveiled it, and boy, was it ever successful. They came out, ran a little bit of option, a bit of the wildcat. Well, can't call it a wildcat because he's actually a quarterback, but it's almost like a form of the wildcat because this guy's like a running back with the football in his hands that can actually throw it 40, 50 yards down the field with the flick of his wrist. And they actually had him come in the game, go play action fake, and throw it too to Randy Moss in triple coverage. And Randy still almost came down with the football. You know, Kaepernick's presence in this game proved to be the difference early on as they put up 10 points, and he had a lot to do with those points being scored, him scoring that early touchdown for the San Francisco 49ers as they took an early 10-0 lead. They took that all the way to the half, and even midway through the third quarter, the score was still 10-0 as the Jets just continued to make too many mistakes, whether it was penalties or turnovers. The Jets just couldn't get out of their own way, and they made too many mistakes. You cannot beat a team like the San Francisco 49ers. If you're going to make mistakes, turn the football over, have penalties, you're not going to beat the 49ers. Because again, as usual, the 49ers do not beat themselves. You have to beat the San Francisco 49ers. They're not just going to give you the game. You're going to have to beat them. The Jets gave the 49ers the game, and the 49ers were definitely willing to take advantage of any and every mistake that the Jets were making in this ball game. And in the second half, those mistakes proved to be costly as the 49ers begin to score off of these turnovers en route to a blowout victory out on the road, 34-0 against the New York Jets. This San Francisco 49ers team was dominant in every phase of the game. Their punter, Annie Lee, Andy Lee was putting the ball inside the 5 routinely. They had no answer for him. And he was, and anytime you're playing against a dominant defense like the 49ers, the last thing you want to do is start your drive out with your back against your own end zone. And that's what they had to do several times in this game because the punter for the 49ers, Andy Lee, was displaying his beautiful touch on the football as he was having it bounce and dive right inside the 5-yard line. On offense, the 49ers, as usual, was that deliberate offense that did what they needed to do to get it done. They had a few wrinkles. I told you about that Colin Kaepernick package. That proved to be something that the Jets weren't prepared for, and it worked to perfection for them in this ball game. Kind of opened them up a little bit, and then they just did the rest. I mean, Alex Smith did not overwhelm you with his performance, but he didn't need to. The Jets were self-destructing right before their eyes, and so they just took advantage of all the opportunities that were given to them. And that defense just dominated that Jets offense. It's not hard to do that. The Jets are not a good offensive football team right now. And so they just went in and took care of business to the tune of 34-0. Even when things go wrong, when it rains, it pours. They had a punt block with a one-man rush. Everyone else was falling back into coverage. The only person rushing on that play was Larry Grant. And guess what happened? Larry Grant blocked the punt, got it around the 4 or 5 yard line. They punched that in for another touchdown. Kendall Hunter runs it in. And talk about humiliation. The Jets were humiliated at home by the San Francisco 49ers, 34-0, taking their record to 2-2 on the season, and the 49ers elevating their record to 3-1 as they finally get to go home after being on the road for 10 days straight. They finally get to find their way back home. So big win for the 49ers, debilitating loss for the Jets. And the Jets are a team right now with a lot of questions and few answers. They're going to have to go back to the drawing board, figure this thing out, and come back because they got a tough team coming up next Monday night against the Houston Texans. They have to get this thing turned around. That could be another ugly game for the Jets, and this thing could go down south quick. They got to answer a lot of these questions and fast. Nonetheless, we continue to skate down the slate of games, and we find ourselves in Kansas City as the Chiefs were waiting on divisional opponent, the San Diego Chargers. More family business, and a lot of people thought that the Chiefs, coming off of that momentous win on the road a week ago, were going to start to turn things around this season and get back on the right track. I didn't believe that was going to happen. I don't believe this is a good Kansas City Chiefs football team. They don't score points. They don't finish drives. And right now on the defensive side of the football, they're not a good team. And so you're not good on offense. You're not good on defense. You can't be a good football team if you're not good in 2 out of the 3 portions of the game. If you're not playing good football on 2 out of the 3 elements of the game, whether it be special teams and defense, special teams and offense and defense, you can't win. You're not going to win consistently in this league. And so I think the Chiefs are a team that are struggling right now, again, trying to find themselves. They don't have an identity right now. What are you? Are you a running team with Jamal Charles and Peyton Hillis and drones? Or are you a passing team looking to throw the football with Matt Castle and getting the ball to John Baldwin and Dwayne Bowe and Moyaki and all those guys? Who are you? I don't think they know right now. And so San Diego came into this game off of a bad loss at home a week ago to the Atlanta Falcons. And so they were hungry to get back on the field and avenge that loss. And they did so. And they came out that first drive, I thought, set the tone in this game. It was a penalty-laden first drive for the San Diego Chargers as the Chiefs just allowed the Chargers to go down the field, aided by Chief pass interference penalties left and right. And they cashed in with a touchdown. And I thought that set the tone that the Chiefs were going to make a lot of mistakes in this football game and that the Chargers intended to fully take advantage of every single mistake that the Chiefs made. And it started early and it continued to happen often in this football game. The Chiefs' first possession, Interception by thrown by Matt Castle. San Diego goes down the field, turns that into a touchdown. Just like that, or excuse me, a field goal. Just like that, it's 10-0. The ensuing possession, Jamal Charles fumbles the football literally on the second play of that possession inside their own 20. 2 plays later, the Chargers are in the end zone again, and it's a 17-0 ball game, and we're not even 8 minutes into the football game yet. I mean, that's how bad it was for this Kansas City Chiefs football team. They just came out, and they could not get out of their own way. They couldn't do anything right. And when you turn the football over in this league, you're not going to win many games. You have to make a conscious effort to try to win the turnover battle every time you set foot on the football field. Or if you don't, you're going to find yourself on the short end of the stick most times than not. And so this Chiefs team came out and they just did the absolute one thing you cannot do and think you're going to win, and that's turn the football over. And they did it repeatedly. Listen to this. With 3 minutes remaining in the first half, listen to the amount of ineptitude that the Chiefs had already accomplished before the half. They had already given up they had 3 turnovers, 1 interception. They had already fumbled 3 times, lost 2 of them. So that's 3 turnovers. They had a sack given up, 10 points given up off of those 3 turnovers, 5 penalties for 50 yards, and a botched extra point on the 1 touchdown that they did score in the first half. Talk about a comedy of errors for the Kansas City Chiefs. You can't win in the National Football League making those kind of mistakes in that condensed of a period of time. It just doesn't happen. And then the Chargers are a team who can score points if you allow them to. And they gave them every opportunity to score, and the Chargers took full advantage of it. The Chiefs ended up with 6 turnovers in this game. You can't win in the National Football League with 6 turnovers. Who are you going to beat playing like that? No way that they were going to win this game turning it over 6 times. And because of those mistakes, the Chiefs get shellacked at home by the San Diego Chargers 37-20 to take their record to 3-1 and drop the Kansas City Chiefs to 1-3 on the season. This is how family business can go awry very quickly. Turn the football over. Don't give your defense a chance to rest. See what happens. You get blown out at home in a divisional matchup. And now you're 1-3 at the bottom of your division. So moving right along on the slate, we find ourselves in Houston, where the Houston Texans look to conduct some family business of their own as they were hosting the Tennessee Titans, a divisional foe in the AFC South. Now, the Houston Texans are head and shoulders above the rest of that division. There's no doubt about it. And not only above that division, but above a lot of the teams in this league. The majority of them. This Houston Texans team is one of the better teams in all of football. And they're playing maybe the best football of anyone in the National Football League. Their combination of offense and defense has been stifling teams and having them winning games very comfortably. I don't think they've been tested thus far in this early season. And they're looking to have a game where they really feel like they're in danger of losing. They haven't had one of those yet. They only won by 6 a week ago, but that game was at one point a 31-11 football game. So this Texans team has been really throttling teams, and they did the same thing to the Tennessee Titans, and we knew that was going to occur. This Titans team is a young football team with a young quarterback at the helm, and they're just not ready. No one in that division is ready to contend with the Texans yet. Texans are at home. You knew this was going to be a ball game that the Tennessee Titans were going to struggle to get. And Jake Locker went down early in this game, and it made it that much harder for them to win. And I thought Hasselbeck came in and gave them a spark. They were down 14-0. The Texans jumped on them early, went down the field, got touchdowns. Hasselbeck comes in, takes them right down the field, makes some beautiful throws, mixes in a little bit of run with Chris Johnson, makes a great throw to their tight end Stevens, who takes it in the end zone. And just like that, Craig Stevens' touchdown reception cuts it to a 14-7 lead. And if you're watching that game, you're thinking, hey, maybe they got a shot. Maybe this veteran can come in and inject some stability and leadership into this roster and give them a shot in the arm. No. This Texans team systematically broke down that Tennessee Titans offense, picking off Hasselbeck and taking it to the house 2 times in this football game, cementing this victory. The Texans right now are just getting it done on both the offensive and defensive side of the football. And they're one of these teams that if you make a mistake on offense and they are able to make you pay by making you turn over the football, they're not just looking to get the ball back to their offense. They're looking to get in the end zone with a return. And they did it twice in this game, and they're becoming very, very adept at doing that. They're a scary football team because when you can get pressure on the quarterback, take that pressure and turn it into turnovers, take those turnovers and turn them into touchdowns, all of a sudden, you take a 7-10 point lead and it blossoms to 17 or 24 in the blink of an eye. And that's what happened to the Dolphins in week 1 against this Texans team. That's what happened to the Broncos a week ago. And that's what happened to the Tennessee Titans in this football game. You can't make mistakes against this Houston Texans team or they'll make you pay for it, and they'll make you pay for it immediately. And that's what they did. Cruise to another victory. Schaub was very solid in this game. Arian Foster took care of the running game. And they just went out and handled business as usual and went and got the win 38-14 over the Tennessee Titans at home, extending their unbeaten streak to 4 games as they're 4-0 on the season. And the Titans dropped to 1-3 on the season after having that climactic win against the Detroit Lions a week ago. They could not build on it as they took that act on the road. And I told you I thought this team was going to struggle on the road. They have not shown me this season thus far they can play on the road and be effective as they have done at home. And so they went on the road and they took a nice one on the chin, and now they have to try to rebound and see if they can get this thing and hope that that Jake Locker injury is not serious and won't keep him out for an extended period of time. As we continue slate skating, we find ourselves in Detroit, another family business matchup which pitted the Detroit Lions against the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings on the road coming off of a big win for them at home against the San Francisco 49ers. A lot of momentum coming into this football game. The Lions having that crushing loss on the road, look to rebound at home against these Vikings. And this was a big one because it was an interdivisional game, but not only that, the Vikings were on top of the division coming into this game, and the Lions were looking up at them. And so a win by the Lions would have yanked the Vikings down and rose them up to a half game behind the Chicago Bears, who play on Monday. And so this is a big game. A win by the Vikings elevates them to 3-1, drops the Lions to 1-3, and all of a sudden this division is turned upside down, as the Lions, a team who made the playoffs a year ago, will be at the bottom just trying to find their way back up towards the top of the division. And so the Lions really needed to get this one, especially that this was a home game for them. You don't want to lose games at home inside the division. And so they came out, and immediately the Vikings did what they did last week, which was get out to an early lead and make teams have to try to come from behind and beat them. They set the tone. Percy Harvin, opening kickoff, 105-yard kickoff return for a touchdown, immediately set the tone in this game that the Vikings were for real. And what that touchdown did was it allowed them to settle down on the road, take the crowd out of the game immediately, silence them, and then it allowed them to say, hey, we can run the football now. If the Lions had got up 10-0 in this game, they would not have had to abandon the running game, but they wouldn't have been able to run it as much as they would have liked. That 7-0 lead allowed them to go out, play some sound defense, which they did not do on their first defensive possession. They gave up a pass interference penalty that led to a field goal for the Lions that cut their lead to 7-3. However, them having that lead allowed them to do the one thing the Lions could not allow them to do in this football game, and that was to establish Adrian Peterson. Adrian Peterson had by far his best game of the season, getting over 100 yards for the first time this season and really controlling this football game on the ground. He was dominant in this game, and he showed us shades of the old Adrian Peterson. Not to say that he ever went into a new Adrian Peterson that couldn't do anything, but he really looked fully 100% back from that injury. If there were any doubts as to whether he was 100%, I think this game put those to rest. He is fully back, and he's going to be the catalyst for this Vikings team moving forward as they really control this game on the ground. They didn't score an offensive touchdown in this game, did the Vikings. But they didn't need to, as their special teams was on fire, scoring that 105-yard aforementioned touchdown by Percy Harvin, kickoff return, and then having Josh Sherrills score a 77-yard punt return to give them their second and final touchdown of the game. And the Lions, I think this season, I've noticed in watching them, they have trouble scoring when they get in the red zone. Normally, in years past, it was simple. The recipe was simple. Just throw it up to Calvin Johnson. Teams aren't allowing them to do that anymore. And I think it's really hindering that offense now because they didn't really have a playbook when they got down in the red zone. Their playbook was, hey, throw it up to Calvin. If he's not open, throw it up to Pettigrew. And now teams are taking away these options and forcing them to do other things, and now they're getting bottled up in the red zone, and they're having to kick field goals. And as we know in this league, touchdowns win games, field goals don't. And so you got to score touchdowns when you get in the red zone, and they're not doing that. And the Vikings took full advantage of the fact that the Lions can't score points this year. And so those two touchdowns on the special teams and were more than enough. And even the two field goals that the Vikings tacked on were both aided by pass interference penalties by the Lions on defense. And so the Vikings really didn't do anything special on offense. They just did enough, scored enough points, and then played sound defense. I thought Mikael LaShore had an excellent game last week, and I was looking for big things this week. The Vikings had other ideas, though. They shut him absolutely down. He did nothing in this football game, which didn't take any pressure off of Matthew Stafford, who had to go out and sling it over 50 times in this ball game. And he was not effective for the most part. And they were able to hold them down, not allow them to score points. And at the end of the day, the Vikings, who went on the road against a divisional opponent, was able to go into Detroit and get a all-important win, taking their record to 3-1, dropping the Detroit Lions to a surprising 1-3 on the season with a 20-13 victory on the road against the Detroit Lions. What a big win for Leslie Frazier and that Minnesota Vikings football team, who just went in there, and I felt like they dominated. They took it to this Detroit Lions team, and this offense for the Lions, which was the catalyst for them winning games and going to the playoffs a season ago, it has been anemic this season. They scored 44 points last week, or 41, excuse me, in a losing effort a week ago. But those points to me were legit points. They were bogus points, especially the two touchdowns that they got at the end of the game. Those were points that the Titans were willing to give up. That last touchdown was a lucky one on a Hail Mary. They got batted to Titus Young, who made a catch. They really haven't been scoring in the red zone. They almost lost to the Rams in week 1 because they couldn't score. It reared its ugly head again, and this time it cost them another chance at a victory. And so now they fall to 1-3, and who knows where they go from here. They got a long way, a long hill to climb to get back into this thing inside that division. And with the Bears playing solid football, the Vikings surprisingly playing good football, and the Packers in that division, the Lions might arguably be the worst team in that division this year. They got to turn some things around, but this thing could get ugly for them this year. And on the flip side, kudos to the Vikings for a big win on the road. Their record is now 3-1, a surprising 3-1, and they've surprised a lot of people, and myself included. And now this Vikings team is looking like a legit contender in this NFC North Division, and let's see if they can continue to play solid football throughout. Christian Ponder had a solid game, did not do anything special, but he did not make the big mistake, and he had a big throw down the stretch to Jerome Simpson to really take some more time off the clock at the end of this game, and that was a big throw. He didn't have many throws that he had to make in this game, but that was one he needed to make, and he did so. And this team right now is playing solid football, and they're confident. They're dangerous right now. Look out for the 3-1 Minnesota Vikings. Our travels finds us next in Buffalo, where the Buffalo Bills were waiting on the New England Patriots. A heated rivalry that has heated up over the last 2 seasons. So this family business has started to get a little testy and chippy because the Buffalo Bills know that in order to get where they want to go, this is the team that they have to go through. And so the Patriots are not willing to relinquish their title to anyone in that division. The Bills want it desperately, but they have to go through the Patriots if they want to get it. And so the Bills have shown over the last 2 seasons they're not afraid of this New England Patriots team. The big bad Patriots were slayed last year by these Bills in Buffalo a season ago, and so the Patriots knew that they had to come in here, especially off of 2 straight losses. It's something that is rare for the Patriots during this Bill Belichick tenure. They knew they had to come in here and play sound football and really establish the fact that these Bills are not ready to take over the throne in the AFC East. The Bills, on the other hand, coming off of 2 consecutive wins, had not played anybody the caliber of the Patriots in this season. They were demolished in the first week of the season by the Jets. But the Jets aren't even on the level of the Patriots. And the Patriots are struggling to win ball games. They're in games. They're playing good enough to win. They're just not winning games. And so this Bills team had confidence coming into this game. And early on, they came out, and I thought it was going to be key for the Bills to convert on 3rd down because they were moving the football early on in the game, but they weren't converting on 3rd downs, on critical 3rd downs on these possessions, and they were having to punt. Meanwhile, on the first possession for the Patriots, they marched right down the field in that Brady-like efficiency, and they just went down the field, Patriot-like touchdown. And so you thought it was going to be one of those games where they just came out, established themselves as a dominant football team, and they were going to take it to the Bills early and often. But that wasn't the case. The Bills settled down, and they were moving the football, but they were turning it over. In his first 7 attempts or so, he was like 5 of 5. And then in his next 2 out of 3 attempts, Ryan Fitzpatrick threw 2 picks. And at one point, he was like 11 of 13 in the football game, with his 2 incompletions being 2 interceptions. I mean, he was playing good football, but he turned it over twice, and against the New England Patriots, a team that you struggle to beat, that you know can score points. You can't afford to do that. However, I thought the Patriots squandered golden opportunities to separate themselves from the Buffalo Bills. These turnovers gave them opportunities to score, and Steven Gostkowski missed 2 field goals early on in this game, allowing the Bills to hang around. And so the Bills started to do things on the offensive end, and Scott Chandler was really playing a solid game, especially early in that first half. He was really taking it to that Patriots defense. And the Patriots started turning the football over. And they started making mistakes, and the Bills started capitalizing on them. And what do you know? Scott Chandler catches 2 touchdown passes, and just like that, it's 14-7. And the Patriots continue to turn the football over, continue to make mistakes, continue to shoot themselves in the foot. Wes Welker fumbled the ball. Boom. Gronkowski fumbles the football. Just like that, 21-7. The Bills are up, and it's looking like the Bills are going to throttle the New England Patriots at home. They get another opportunity after a Patriots fumble, this time by Welker, the first being by Gronkowski. And they take it all the way down to the 2-yard line, And I thought that I wrote down in my notes at the time when I was watching the game that this was a pivotal point in the game. CJ Spiller running high down in the red zone. You have to keep your pad levels low. He was up high, took a absolute shot from Brandon Spikes, forcing a fumble, recovered by the Patriots. Vince Wilfork comes out of the scrum with the football. And I thought that exact play, that exact moment in the game changed the whole complexion of the game. If the Bills go in and get 7 there and go up 28-7, I think the Patriots are done in this football game. But they hold up, get the turnover, stop them, and then proceeded to score 35 unanswered points in the football game. It makes it sound easy, but it was not. But that's what the Patriots do. The Bills essentially self-destructed before our eyes, turning the ball over, not converting on third downs, having mental breakdowns on the defensive side of the ball. Gronkowski running wide open. If anyone needs to be covered, it's Rob Gronkowski. He's running wide open over the middle of the field, walks in the end zone. They just had mental lapses, and not only did they have mental lapses in the passing games trying to stop the Patriots, they were getting gashed, absolutely destroyed on the ground, as the Patriots had two running backs, Brandon Bolden, who had a sensational game, and Stephen Ridley, who also went over 100 and had a great game for the Patriots. They were just destroying the Bills on defense, shredding them in multiple ways, whether it was running, passing. I can't remember a time that I saw two receivers and two running backs, both over 100 yards, respectively, on the same teams in the same game. You're talking about over 400 yards of offense between four players. Amazing what the Patriots were able to do in that second half as they dominated the Bills en route to a 52-28 victory, snapping the Bills' two-game winning streak, snapping their two-game losing streak, taking their record to 2-2 on the season, dropping the Bills down to 2-2 on the season. The Patriots knew the importance of this game. The Bills early on, they knew what was at stake. They knew what they needed to come out and do. And early on, they looked to be the more aggressive team. But at some point, you knew that the true colors of the Bills were going to shine through. They weren't ready for this spotlight. They weren't ready for this stage. And so you knew it was only a matter of time before they self-destructed and the Patriots took full advantage of it. And it happened. The Patriots racked up points at an alarming rate, ran away with this ball game 52-28. So now the Bills are back at 2-2. The Patriots are back at 2-2. They're even. And as they say at receiver, if you're even, you're leaving. And the Patriots are not even with the Bills. They're leaving the Bills now. The Bills are going to go south. The Patriots are going to ascend, and they're going to go in opposite directions. And this Bills team is just not a good football team. I thought they had two cupcakes, two layups, and they were able to take care of those as they should have. But the two teams in their division that are any good, they were beat and blown out. Not just beat, but soundly defeated by both of them, the Jets and the Patriots. And so this Bills team isn't ready. They got a long way to go. And it's sad because they went out and spent all that money on the defensive side of the football, and these guys are not producing whatsoever. No pressure on Tom Brady yesterday. He was able to sit in the pocket, look over his reads, find the receiver who was open and make plays. And so our next matchup takes us out to Jacksonville as the Cincinnati Bengals took on the Jacksonville Jaguars. And this one was simple. This was a simple game to diagnose. As I'm watching it, everything that I said came to fruition. The Jacksonville Jaguars on the defensive end are going to keep their team in the ball game for as long as they can stand. Cincinnati started this game out slow, and honestly, the Jaguars had every opportunity to start this game out fast. They did nothing on the offensive end, had to punt, pinned the Cincinnati Bengals in their own territory in that ball game. And Andy Dalton throws an early interception. Intercepted by the linebacker